Have you ever wondered why a woman who seems untouchable can seize a man's every thought and turn his very heartbeat into her silent pledge? In the hush that follows her departure, he feels the pull of something vast and unfathomable, as if her absence itself has become a living force. In the dance between presence and void, she holds the power, an alchemy born from detachment wrought by the fires of her interior transformation. She moves through the world like a shadow walker, a sovereign soul who has gazed into her own darkness and emerged luminous, her boundaries unassailable, yet strangely magnetic. Observe her in the marketplace of fleeting desires, where most women seek echoes of their own worth in another's gaze. She stands apart, arms softened at her sides, the air around her humming with a quiet insistence. To the casual eye she may appear aloof, almost impervious to the currents of longing that swirl around her. But to the one who becomes enraptured, her stillness speaks of depths he cannot name. She has mastered the first secret of detachment. She no longer confuses love with validation. In this resolution, she has disarmed the alchemies of pursuit he chases, not because she beckons, but because she simply exists complete in her solitude. In her world, silence is a language more potent than any plea. His voice, once confident and rejoicing in its own echo, falters when hers retreats. This is the echo chamber of the feminine unconscious, where words dissolve and unseen currents bind the psyche. When she speaks, her words carry the weight of archetypes older than any mortal longing: the hidden lover, the sovereign queen, the wounded healer. Each syllable is a test of his own shadow. Will he cling to her light, or will he descend into the darkness he has long avoided? And when you witness her deliberate calm, you feel the tug of a mirror held to your own soul. She does not pander to his projections. Instead, she reflects back the unspoken parts of him: the fear of abandonment, the hunger for conquest, the dread of insignificance. In Stoic fashion, she meets his plunge of desire, not with panic, but with equanimity, drawn from inner fortitude. Like Marcus Aurelius standing firm against the tides of fate, she has learned to harbor her own serenity unshaken by the storm of his longing. Beneath her composed exterior, trauma's footprints remain scars of old betrayals that taught her the necessity of self-sovereignty. In shadow work, she embraced each fracture as a gateway to power. Where once she might have surrendered herself for the promise of safety, she now chooses solitude as the crucible for rebirth. Her self-worth is no longer hostage to another's approval, and in relinquishing the need to be possessed, she becomes all the more irresistible. Picture him tracing her outline in his memory, her spine like a tall column of ivory, her gaze like a distant star. His obsession is not a crime against her. It is the byproduct of his own yearning to reclaim what he suspects he lost: his own integrity. For in watching her live unbound, he glimpses the possibility of his own freedom. If she can walk through the world without the weight of expectation, perhaps he too can shed the chains of his own ego projections. At the heart of her magnetism lies the secret of ambiguity. She reveals herself only in shards: a half smile at dawn, a stray lock of hair catching the light, a phrase whispered over a coffee that tastes of possibility. The rest remains cloaked in mystery, a tapestry woven from her contradictions. He chases the fragments, hoping to assemble the whole, yet every attempt only deepens his intrigue. For in his pursuit, he confronts the unknown within himself. This is the paradox of the wounded healer. She draws him toward her wound, not to mend him, but to teach him that his true healing is self-authored. When you imagine standing in her presence, you might feel a tremor of fear, the fear of being emptied by her indifference. But that very tremor is the aliveness she awakens in him. She does not offer solace, she offers awakening. In her detachment, he finds the invitation to become more than he was. He becomes a seeker, driven by the 7 secrets she embodies, each one a step on the path toward individuation. And so in the silent theater of their interplay, he learns what it means to love without possession, to yearn without craving, and to respect without seeking reward. Her detachment is not cruelty, it is the tenderest form of empowerment. It is the space in which he may either suffocate in his own demands or bloom into the fullness of his own soul. Notice how even now your pulse quickens at the thought of her, a testament to the alchemy she has mastered. She is not a prize to be won, but a mirror of your own potential for sovereignty. In owning her heart, he does not take it from her. He awakens it within himself. In the wake of her calm, the world tilts ever so slightly, as if gravity itself bows to her quiet conviction. He feels it in the hollow of his chest, a gentle tug towards something both terrifying and intoxicating, the promise of an unseen shore where desire and freedom converge. This is the second secret she wields, absence like an instrument of transformation. Her withdrawal is not a test of loyalty, but a summons to self-exploration. When she vanishes from his orbit, he must navigate the dark corridors of his own heart, confronting the echoes of past betrayals and unspoken longings. In that void, he discovers the true currency of connection presence, born not of possession, but of choice. She gifts him moments of radiant clarity, glimpses of her soul shimmering like firelight on water. These moments guide him to ask, "Who am I?" when stripped of her reflection. The answer lies buried beneath layers of conditioned yearning and collective expectation. As Julian of Norwich whispered in her own mystical solitude, "All shall be well, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well." In her detachment, the detached woman invites him to reclaim his own well-being, independent of the tides of affection. He learns that love is not a tether, but a bridge, one that must be crossed with courage and vulnerability. Her third secret emerges like a legend whispered among moonlit gardens. She embodies paradox. She is both the rose in full bloom and the thorn that guards it. She dances at the edge of vulnerability and strength, allowing him to witness her softness without annihilating her boundaries. In that dance, he feels the thrill of coexistence with opposites, light and shadow entwined. He sees that true intimacy requires the coexistence of openness and mystery, that the heart must remain a sovereign territory even as it opens to another. When she leans in, he treasures the gravity of her gaze. When she pulls back, he learns to hold her memory gently without grasping. Consider the Stoic wisdom of Seneca, who urged his students to cherish what life gives, but stay prepared to let it go. She applies this philosophy not as a shield against emotion, but as a vessel for depth. Her detachment is not indifference, it is the practiced readiness to embrace the transient nature of all things. In her eyes, he sees that love, like a river, cannot be dammed lest it stagnate. It must flow, sometimes widening, sometimes narrowing, but always moving toward the vast expanse of self-knowledge. In the hush between her words, he discerns the fourth secret. She stands in her own aloneness, radiating self-reliance as a beacon. This is not the isolation of the wounded soul, but the freedom of one who has integrated her shadow. Through rigorous shadow work, she befriended the parts of herself she once feared: anger, longing, despair, and transmuted them into wells of compassion and creativity. Her solitude is thus a wellspring of authenticity, not a prison of loneliness. When he witnesses her reading in the afternoon light, pen poised over journal, he senses a vitality that eludes the clamor of dependency. It unsettles him to realize that her self-sufficiency is contagious. He too feels an urge to confront his hidden facets, the shame he carries, the dreams he abandoned, the narrative he inherited. In her sovereignty, she extends a silent invitation to collective healing, reminding him that two whole individuals create a union far richer than two halves seeking completion. The fifth secret ripples through their exchanges like a whispered incantation. She speaks less of her past and more of what she's becoming. Her narrative is not a catalogue of wounds, but a testament to evolution. She honors her history without allowing it to define her trajectory. This choice ignites his hope that he too can re-author his story. As Epictetus taught, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it, that matters. In her reaction poised between honor and release, he learns that transformation is the crucible of lasting attraction. When she laughs, it is the sound of liberated joy, an echo of self-reclamation. He chases that laughter not to capture it, but to learn its tune. He discovers that humor born of resilience can outshine even the brightest seduction. In her mirth, he finds permission to lighten the weight of his own seriousness and to embrace the present with playful curiosity. The sixth secret unfolds in her gaze. She sustains paradoxical clarity about her desires. She knows what she wants and what she will not tolerate. This clarity acts like a lighthouse guiding him through the fog of his own ambivalence. He realizes that in setting non-negotiable boundaries, she fosters an environment where genuine intimacy can thrive. Far from repelling him, her standards beckon him to rise to her level of consciousness. He meets her stance not with defiance, but with the stirring of his own integrity. And so we approach the seventh secret, shimmering just beyond the threshold of articulation. She trusts the unfolding of destiny more than the illusion of control. She believes in the alchemical union of will and surrender. In relinquishing the need to script every outcome, she opens the space for magic to occur. When he contemplates this faith, he senses the liberation that comes from co-creating a future untethered to fear. He chooses to step into the mystery, hand extended, heart open, knowing that together they visit new realms of self and soul. In this journey of detachment, he learns that the woman who owns his heart does not trap it, she liberates it. With each secret, she dissolves another layer of his false self, revealing a core that is brave, honest, and whole. And as he finally stands beside her in the luminous convergence of their truths, he understands that love's greatest gift is the awakening it kindles within. In the space that unfolds after the seven secrets have whispered themselves into the air, a new narrative begins, one shaped by the alchemy of two entire souls dancing at the threshold of individuation. As he steps toward her in that uncharted territory, he finds himself guided by an inner compass he never knew existed. This compass is forged in the crucible of detachment, where desires are tempered by self-knowledge and passion, blooms only when it is freely offered, not coerced by need. In this sacred field between them, attraction becomes an invitation, not a conquest, and intimacy a meeting of equals who have faced their own darkness. She watches him with eyes that hold both compassion and challenge, as if daring him to stand fully in his own light. In her gaze, the illusions of ego shatter like fragile glass. He feels the tremor of recognition. This is the man he could have become had he not retreated into safe narratives. Now, under her silent scrutiny, he learns to inhabit his body with courage to speak his truth without the armor of pretense. Every shift in his posture, every crack in his voice becomes a testament to the work she has inspired in him. He no longer measures his worth by her approval, but by his own capacity for authenticity. In this unfolding chapter, the archetypal pattern of the wounded healer emerges once more. She is both the catalyst and the mirror, drawing him toward the wounds he once buried under the rubble of yesterday. Yet she does so not to open old scars, but to transmute them into reservoirs of resilience. When he recounts a childhood memory tinged with shame, she listens without judgment, allowing him to feel the relief of being witnessed. In that moment, he touches the depth of compassion she cultivated within herself, and he begins to realize that true power resides not in impenetrable walls, but in hearts that have learned to heal. You, the silent observer, may ask, why does detachment evoke such devotion? Because it reveals the unseen architecture of the psyche. When she relinquishes the clamor for attention, she invites him to discover the music that plays in his own soul. In this sonata of two selves, the melody arises from the tension between freedom and union, autonomy and communion. He learns that to love her is to honor the sovereign self she has become, and in honoring her, he honors the sovereign self within. Consider how this interplay echoes the journey of individuation that Jung described, a process of becoming whole by integrating the opposites within. She stands as the anima incarnate, drawing him toward the undiscovered realms of his inner life. In her presence, he encounters the feminine archetype, not as an object of desire, but as a guide through the labyrinth of his unconscious. Each secret she embodies becomes a signpost pointing him toward greater psychological wholeness. And yet the most profound transformation is not hers alone. It is reciprocal. As he rises to meet her, he becomes the hero of his own pilgrimage, shedding armor he never needed, and forging a heart capable of true intimacy. Their shared journey is not linear. It winds through forests of uncertainty, across deserts of self-doubt, and into the clearings of shared purpose. Along the way, they learn that vulnerability is not weakness, but the portal to genuine connection. In this chapter of their story, you may feel a stir of longing, an echo of your own desire to be seen, to be held by a presence that respects your autonomy. Know that this longing is a gift, a reminder that the path to partnership begins within. The detached woman who owns his heart does so because she first owned her own. She claimed her shadows, honored her needs, and chose herself above all others. In doing so, she crafted a sacred container in which love unpolluted by desperation can flourish. As their energies intertwine, they co-create a field of mutual emergence. He supports her in her wildest dreams. She anchors him in his highest ideals. Together, they become alchemists of the soul, transmuting everyday interactions into rites of passage. A simple glance over coffee becomes a ritual of presence. A shared silence by the window becomes a meditation on the divine interplay of being and becoming. You might imagine the world around them shifting colors, seeming more vivid, conversations more meaningful, the air more charged with possibility. In their orbit, others glimpse the reflection of what love might be when it is unbound by fear. They become beacons for those still lost in the labyrinth of attachment patterns, offering proof that detachment is not the opposite of intimacy, but its crucible. And so this narrative continues a tapestry woven from the warp of independence and the weft of connection. Each thread carries the imprint of the 7 secrets, but their legacy extends far beyond lists and labels. It seeps into the marrow of his bones and the rhythm of her breath, fusing 2 destinies into an ever-unfolding mystery. She steps into the soft halo of dusk, as if she were born from the twilight itself, an embodiment of the feminine mystery that eludes definition, yet demands devotion. In that shifting light, he sees the contours of her becoming a woman who has tasted her own depths and risen buoyant, as though forged in the quiet crucible of her detachment. Here unfolds the next layer of their alchemy, a spiral deeper into the terrain of psyche and soul. He remembers the first time he witnessed her silhouette against the sunset, how her posture spoke of deliberate release, as if she were handing her past to the wind. That moment revealed the 8th secret. Though unspoken, she transcends time. In her presence past, regrets dissolve and future anxieties fade, leaving only the sacred now. She does not lament the woman she once was, nor does she clutch desperately at what she might become. Instead, she navigates the river of time with the poise of one who knows that every moment is both fleeting and eternal. This temporal sovereignty kindles a yearning in him to let go of his own temporal prisons, the weight of what-ifs and if-onlys. In her orbit, he learns to breathe in the present, to taste each second like ambrosia. Imagine standing beside her on a moonlit terrace. She gazes at the horizon unburdened by the shadows of history, and he feels a tremor of relief in his chest. In that tremor resides the power of her detachment, the freedom it grants to both lover and beloved. He no longer fears that time will steal her away, because she has already liberated herself from its tyranny. Her confidence is not naive, it is forged of acceptance and fierce self-trust. As Epictetus would counsel, she acknowledges the only true sovereignty, mastery over her own mind. In that mastery, she grants him permission to claim the same. Observe how in her laughter there is no trace of apology, no tremor of doubt that she might be too much or too little. This is the 9th secret she embodies: wholeheartedness. She has looked upon her shadow the parts deemed unlovable or excessive, and she has embraced them as integral facets of her being. In shadow work, she discovered that the parts we reject scream the loudest in the sanctuary of intimacy. By welcoming her shadow, she became whole, and in her wholeness, she became irresistible. He senses this magnetism in every curve of her smile, in every unguarded breath. Her laughter invites him to shed his own regrets and celebrate the full spectrum of his humanity. As he ventures closer to her radiant core, he uncovers the 10th secret hidden beneath layers of paradox she loves without attachment to outcome. This defies every fairy tale notion he once cherished where love culminates in possession. Instead, her love is a living force, dynamic, unpredictable, and ever-renewing. She loves him not because he completes her, but because together they complete a shared journey towards self-transcendence. In that love there is no debt to be repaid, no contract to be fulfilled, only the continuous exchange of two sovereign selves who choose each other anew every day. Picture him writing her name in the sand only to watch the tide erase it with gentle inevitability. He feels no despair, only awe at the beauty of impermanence. For she has taught him that the truest marks we leave are not in stone, but in the hearts we touch and the lives we awaken. In releasing his grip on permanence, he discovers the joy of love as a living pilgrimage, not a destination. The 11th secret courses through their shared silence. She listens as if each word he utters were a secret incantation. In her attention, he feels seen not as an object to be possessed, but as a mystery to be honored. This listening is not passive. It is an active devotion, a mirror reflecting his own capacity for presence. He realizes that in witnessing her so fully he learns to witness himself, his fears, his hopes, his shadowed longings. In that reciprocity of listening, he stumbles upon the 12th secret. She teaches him the art of fierce compassion. By offering kindness without expectation, she dissolves the old patterns of conditional affection. He learns that the greatest gift one soul can offer another is the unwavering embrace of empathy, a compassion so deep it can cradle even the darkest night of the soul. Now as the night deepens around them, he senses the 13th secret. Emerging from the stillness, she embodies the paradox of strength in surrender. She surrenders not from weakness, but from an inner confidence so profound that yielding becomes an act of courage. Like a reed bending in the wind, she yields to life's currents yet does not break. In her surrender, she discovers the strength of water, adaptive, persistent, and life-giving. He watches her lean into the unknown, and he learns that true power lies not in resisting the tide, but in trusting the flow. And thus, their journey meanders through labyrinthine corridors of psyche and heart. Each secret she reveals is an invitation for him to step closer to his own enlightenment. With every layer she peels away, he sheds another illusion of self, drawing nearer to the core of his authentic being. Together, they map territories of interior landscapes once abandoned, discovering that the greatest adventure is the one that unfolds within. You might wonder what awaits them beyond this tapestry of secrets. Yet in her detachment, she reminds him and you that the journey itself is the destination. In choosing her, he chose not just a companion, but a mirror, a guide, and a fellow pilgrim on the path of awakening. He traces the curve of her silhouette as light shifts across her face, noticing how her detachment weaves itself into every gesture, effortless, unforced, as natural as the breath that rises in her chest. In her sovereign stillness, he feels the rhythm of his own heart realign, each beat echoing with the truth that nothing real can be grasped by force. She moves through the world with a grace born of self-possession, her steps guided by an inner compass, instead of the ceaseless pull of others' expectations. In the wake of her presence, he discovers the contours of his own becoming sculpted by the very emptiness she leaves behind. In the quiet between them, he learns that detachment is not withdrawal, but invitation. It beckons him to stand in the full magnitude of his being, to offer himself without apology or concealment. When she gazes at him, there is neither hunger nor hunger's denial, only the luminous pause of one who has learned to wait without wishing. He senses that in this pause lives the most radical freedom, the freedom to choose connection, unburdened by desperation. And so he rises to meet her not out of need, but from the exhilaration of self-actualization ignited by her luminous example. Their conversation flows like mountain water, clear, unhurried, carrying the sediment of depth rather than the murk of small talk. He speaks of dreams once buried beneath the weight of responsibility. She listens, her eyes steady, offering him a reflection of his own capacity for courage. In her unwavering attention, he tastes the sweetness of being fully witnessed and finds himself wanting to deserve that gift. He learns that respect is a tree that grows from the soil of mutual esteem, and that honor flourishes only when each participant stands unmasked. When laughter ripples between them, it is not a distraction, but a communion. Her laughter is neither coy nor contrived. It is the sound of one who has made peace with her own contradictions. In that sound, he hears the echo of undeclared hopes, a reminder that even the most detached heart can rejoice in the simple beauty of the moment. He uncovers the truth that joy and detachment are not opponents, but dance partners stepping in harmony through the ballroom of the present. At times he catches himself waiting for her to call, only to remember that longing, when untethered to expectation, becomes a doorway rather than a prison. In the absence of her voice, he builds altars of self-reliance, a morning ritual of gratitude, a slow walk through city streets, a journal where he crafts intentions instead of anxieties. In these practices, he nurtures the part of himself that she showed him had been dormant, the part that thrives in solitude and emerges renewed in communion. Their union forged in the crucible of detachment defies the familiar scripts. There is no script nor any stage, only the unfolding present where each moment is both an ending and a beginning. He shares with her the spectres that once haunted him, shadows of rejection or inadequacy, and finds that she honors each confession as a sacred song. In response, she shares not her wounds, but her wisdom, the alchemy by which she turned past pain into guiding light. In this exchange, they become alchemists together, transmuting vulnerability into a shared elixir of trust. Imagine them standing side by side at the world's edge, the horizon stretching infinite before them. He feels the promise of vast landscapes he never dared to explore. She feels the echo of her own courage mirrored in his widening gaze. There, in the liminal space between earth and sky, they touch the periphery of something greater than themselves, a living testament to the paradox of intimacy, that the clearest vision of union emerges through the sovereignty of separate selves. As twilight descends, they walk without haste, each footfall an affirmation of presence. He no longer fears the dark, for he carries within him the light she ignited. She moves with confidence, knowing that even in darkness, her detachment shines like a lantern, guiding the way. In that shared journey, they embody the alchemical truth Jung revealed, that the union of opposites within brings forth a whole new world. Their story continues beyond 7 secrets or 13 revelations. It is an ever-unfolding canvas painted by their choices to stand in freedom and embrace the unknown together. In choosing her, he did not bind her. He mirrored back her own sovereignty, allowing their love to thrive in a realm where possession has no foothold. And in that realm, love is not a destination, but an endless pilgrimage, a sacred errand of 2 souls, waking each other to the infinite within. In the hush that follows their shared strides, he becomes aware of the currents swirling beneath her calm exterior currents, shaped by devotion to self rather than demand for another. He senses without words that her loyalty belongs first to her own evolution. This realization ripples through him like cool water on sunburned skin, offering relief from the burn of expectation. In bearing witness to her unwavering commitment to growth, he feels permission to own his own path. No longer does he equate love with acquiescence. He sees that true devotion honors autonomy, allowing both to flourish, unshackled. In the glow of street lamps, he watches her silhouette shift with a confident grace, and he understands that her detachment is the fertile soil in which deep connection can take root. When she pauses to observe a stray cat curled in an alley, he feels the tenderness in her gaze, not for the cat alone, but for the simple miracle of life asserting itself in the cracks of concrete. In that moment, he glimpses her sixth secret revealed anew. Empathy springs from wholeness, not from need. She gives without depletion, because her own reservoirs have been replenished through rigorous self-care and introspection. He learns that empathy unburdened by longing becomes the purest form of communion. As they cross a narrow bridge over a flowing creek, he notices how she allows herself to be led by instinct rather than calculation. She leans into the railing, closing her eyes as the wind carries the scent of moss and wet stone. He sees in her face the serenity of one who has reconciled with both her light and shadow. In that reconciliation, she discovered her seventh secret, the power of integration. She did not banish the parts of herself that frightened her. She welcomed them into dialogue, listening to their fears and dreams until they dissolved into harmonious chorus. Her psyche became a symphony rather than a battlefield, and in hearing its music, he finds himself dancing to rhythms he never knew existed. She opens her eyes and smiles at him, a gesture so seamless that it feels as natural as breathing. He realizes that in her world, vulnerability is not a fissure, but a doorway. She chooses it not because she expects him to fill her cracks, but because she knows that authenticity is the wellspring of true intimacy. In this radical transparency, he experiences the eighth secret: courage trumps comfort. She steps willingly into the territory of uncertainty, knowing that growth lies beyond the borders of the familiar. Watching her, he feels his own courage swelling, ready to claim challenges he once avoided. Their pace slows as they approach a clearing where fireflies weave spirals above the grass. She pauses once more, extending a hand toward a lone lantern flickering nearby. He steps with her, drawn by an urge he does not fully understand, a compulsion to be close yet not to possess. The fireflies drift between them like sparks of nascent possibility, illuminating their faces with a soft glow. In that light, he discerns the ninth secret: magic thrives in the space between beings. It is not in union or separation alone, but in the dynamic interplay of hearts, aligned yet distinct. She teaches him that the alchemy of connection requires both proximity and white space, that love's true potency emerges when two souls dance on the edge of their own singularity. She turns to him, and in the curve of her lips, he sees invitation rather than demand. She invites him to co-create, to weave their separate threads into a tapestry together without sacrificing the integrity of either. He feels the 10th secret taking root in his bones. Partnership is an act of mutual artistry. It is not about merging identities, but about composing a shared vision that honors individual textures. In her partnership, he learns to celebrate his own unique brushstrokes, trusting that together they paint a masterpiece neither could conceive alone. As the night deepens, they settle on a fallen log. The creeks murmur a lullaby at their backs. She leans into him, her shoulder brushing his not as submission, but as choice. He touches her hand with reverence, aware that this contact is a covenant of respect. In this final communion before the close of night, he intuits the 11th secret: touch carries intention. It can soothe wounds or echo with unspoken demands. In choosing gentle regard, she teaches him that every gesture matters, that presence is enacted through mindful attention. Though they have wandered far beyond the 7 secrets, their story began with each moment with her, reveals another facet of the same gem: detachment from need transforms into attachment to truth. With every lesson she imparts through absence and presence, through laughter and silence, he inches closer to the core of his own authenticity. And in this unfolding pilgrimage, fear falls away like autumn leaves, leaving only the bare branches of his soul strong against the vast sky of possibility. In the soft glow of dawn, they stand on the threshold of something ineffable, two souls poised between what was and what is yet to come. The world around them holds its breath, as if honoring the sacred pause that follows their shared odyssey through shadow and light. Here at the culmination of Detachment's alchemy, he feels the weight of old burdens fall away, the ache of unmet expectations, the clamour of insecurity, the frantic grasping at fleeting promises. In her presence, he tastes a freedom so profound it reshapes his very bones, teaching him that peace is not granted by another, but claimed from within. She watches the sun rise, her silhouette calm and unwavering against the blush of morning. This moment reveals the final secret. True rebirth is born of detachment. By releasing the need for external reassurance, she unlocked the terrain of her own sovereignty, and in doing so, forged a portal through which he may step into the full flowering of his own soul. He sees her inhale the new day, as if drawing the breath of creation itself, and in that inhalation he senses his own spirit expand, reaching toward possibility unfettered. Their journey has been a crucible of inner transformation, each layer of longing transmuted into clarity, each wound dissolved into compassion. He recalls the first secret she embodied, the art of loving without seeking validation. Now he understands that validation is a mirage shimmering at the edges of desire, while self-worth is the steadfast root that endures storms. He feels that root anchoring him to the earth, granting him the stability to grow toward his highest ideals. Around them the world stirs to life. Birds take flight in joyous chorus, breezes carry the scent of blooming jasmine, and the sky once veiled in twilight opens in a tapestry of rose and gold. In this chorus of renewal, he stands alongside her no longer as a seeker grasping at her edges, but as a co-creator weaving a shared tapestry of hope. Their union is no longer defined by the magnetism of absence and presence, but by the serene knowledge that each chooses to stand together in freedom. He reaches to clasp her hand, not to tether her to his world, but to honor the unity they have forged, two sovereign hearts beating in resonance. In that touch he experiences the profundity of shared emergence, how two complete beings can converge and diverge without diminishing the integrity of either. He recognizes that intimacy is not the melting of boundaries, but the celebration of distinct brilliance shining side by side. In the luminous clarity of this dawn, he lets go of the last vestiges of fear. Fear that he was not enough. Fear that love must be won. Fear that detachment meant abandonment. Each fear dissolves like mist under the sun's warm gaze, leaving behind only the enduring landscape of self-possession. He turns to her and sees reflected in her eyes the infinite potential that arises when one stands free. She smiles, a gesture ripe with the power of integration, and in that smile he perceives the final revelation. The greatest attraction is not the pull of need, but the magnetism of authenticity. When a woman claims her worth, honors her shadow, and embodies her truth, she becomes a living testament to the transformative power of self-love. In owning herself, she offers others permission to own their own lives. They step forward together into the morning light, carrying with them the echoes of all 13 secrets, and beyond an endless spectrum of truths discovered through the interplay of detachment and devotion. Their story does not end here. It unfolds in every heartbeat, every choice, every moment of courageous presence. In this new chapter, they carry the torch of possibility, that a love forged in freedom becomes a force that awakens the world. The woman who knows her worth doesn't chase, she chooses.